They're somehow able to differentiate between so much similar shit where me just reading it makes my eyes turn into raspberries. Actually, scratch that. I want these motherfuckers on my personal research team. I want to snatch them up for the private sector before the FBI or other federal institutions can get their grubby hands on them. I want to use them for my own nefarious purposes instead, most of which will just come back down to me making fun of people on the internet to make money. I think the best way to ease you into the majority of this fandom wiki's contents is by not doing that at all. Instead, I'm just going to bodily throw you into the deep end and hold your head under until the last possible second before you drown. You'll have like a brief outline of what God looks like by the time we're done. You're gonna be that close to death, promise. For example of the weirdness involved, the Dream SMP timeline is split into multiple eras. The first two are BT and AT. That's before Tommy and after Tommy. They have split the history of this Minecraft roleplay server with historical abbreviations that invokes Tommy in it in the image of Jesus Christ. It's like the Meat Canyon video where that literally happens. And I mean, it kind of fits too. The story and lore-oriented direction the server took really only came about when Tommy joined and broke every established rule in favor of doing whatever the fuck he wanted. In the same way that Jesus changed the course of human history, Tommy changed the course of Dream SMP by eating a little shit. If Dream is the Father Almighty, Tommy is the Son, and the Holy Spirit is probably like Wilbur or Tubbo or something. I didn't really think this metaphor all the way through, if I'm being honest. It just sounded funny in my head, but usually enough for it to make it into my scripts. Standards are not high on this channel. And the more I look at this timeline, though, the more and more it reminds me of the real course of human history. We're in AD in the real world right now, which is just barely 2,000 years old at this point. There are tens of thousands of years of history before lost over. Like, we don't talk about that shit at all beyond like one unit. And if you look at the Dream SMP timeline, almost all of the events take place in the latter half. There is just a year's worth of history that is barely documented. There's even an equivalent of the fall of Rome where everything just starts to go off the rails. Looking at this diagram must be how the first people to ever write history down must have felt. I feel like I'm getting to relive the thought process of the first dudes to ever think, hey, that shit just happened, let's write it down so people don't forget that that shit happened. Of course, this is just an overview of the Dream SMP, and the devil is in the details. The moments that last the longest are usually just that, moments. Single instances where the course of history was changed forever. The issue is that there is just so fucking much. I touched on this in my Dream SMP video essay, but the amount of lore that comes with this ridiculous crossover series, how many streamers there are all doing their own thing. The Dream SMP has only been around for a few years and has been only doing this storytelling stuff after Tommy. Even with how relatively short an amount of time it's been around, as a result, there's more content to dissect than in all of Star Wars, and I mean all of it. Let me just pick a random, funny-sounding event name off the timeline so we can get the play-by-play. There is no way I will narrow this down with some kind of analysis or process, so I'm just gonna pick one that sounds funny. Fun Guy Death will work. I definitely didn't choose that one because it's what I would call somebody getting athlete's foot that spreads to their whole body and dying a gruesome, painful death from it. Fun Guy was actually the name of Nikki's fox, and Fun Guy's death was the inciting incident of the first pet war. I just dropped like 3 new terms on you, at least, out of nowhere. There is no way you could have caught all that, and that's exactly how my world history teacher would have done it. Fun Guy was murdered accidentally by another player, Sapnap, and the fox was apparently killed by continuously firing shots with his bow right next to the fox as a game. On the 5th shot, he accidentally shot and killed Fun Guy, and on the same day, he also killed Harold, Tommy's cow, thinking it was a random. It sounds like it was a callous disregard for life in general that caused Sapnap to act, and I imagine at the time that he thought nothing of his actions. What he was doing was just a bit of fun, and it would be an isolated incident. And it's in that line of thinking we can see the parallels to the First World War. Namely, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, where after his death sent 2 nations into conflict, a complex web of alliances forced the majority of the Western world into war with each other at one point or another. A similar domino effect can be observed in the Pet War, as more and more players got involved. Fundy was angry on Nikki's behalf as her ally, and killed Sapnap's fox in retaliation, but Fundy didn't stop there, further escalating the conflict until more major players were brought into the fray, and the only thing either side got was more fatalities and a whole lot of Twitch subs. There were no real winners but their wallets, and also indirectly Jeff Bezos. But just like Sapnap's actions didn't exist in a vacuum, neither did this group. It had several live consequences, and there's even an analysis section on this wiki page so that we can better understand the ramifications of this particularly non-centric bloodbath. Please let me read you an excerpt so you can better understand how the loss affected those involved. This section largely stated wrong. The Civil War. On the surface, Sapnap was the main antagonist, as he killed the most powerful part of the war. However, Fundy was in the wrong as well, as he escalated the conflict after it had died down by having Nikki's first hit, declaring war on Punch and holding the nation. Why? War happened not long after. Of course, ancient history like this is only known to us because people kept accounts of it. And if we pretend that stream bots don't exist for a little bit, we can pretend that the only documentation that exists is the stuff that the characters have written in-game. And let me tell you, there is a 10th grade English classes worth of reading material to go through of in-server books in the Dream SMP already. I fucking hate my job. All of these books have been transcribed and text with the ability for someone like me who wants to copy and paste their contents into a video script. I have no idea how somebody has the free time or the attention span for this. And these works really do capture the full breadth of the human condition. From the ramblings of a madman, which is basically anything that Tommy writes, from the pen of Tommy in it, history is happening. History is here. History is happening. This is a poem. Balcony. We are stood on a balcony. Bald people. They just aren't good. Politics. All I want to do is create more policy. That was a passage from the document Pod Policies. Now, obviously, what I'm showing you here from the site for the last 8 or 9 minutes has been a whole lot of schlock, but I feel like this fandom page is something of a hidden resource for Dream stans and Dream antis alike. If anybody ever wanted to make an argument for how single-mindedly devoted and obsessed they think Dream stans can be to him and what he does, this wiki would be your best shot at proof. This is immortalized, written evidence of the amount of time fans will put towards something they love. If you made this site and submitted it as proof of your commitment to something on a college application, you would get the fuck in. The amount of content here borderlines on obscene. I don't think a man locked in an insane asylum could fit this amount of info contained on this wiki within the scribbles he makes on his walls. I have talked about people passionately dedicated to Dream content all the time, but the dudes behind this website are easily the peak form of whatever that niche of people is. But despite my efforts to give you a formal education on the dedication of Dream SMP historians, story stands, there was no way you would get a comprehensive view of the world of the Dream SMP unless I made this bitch a docuseries with 8 one-hour-long episodes with a follow-up season on the horizon, depending on how well received it was. Because of that, I'm gonna wrap this up here. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to drop a like and subscribe with notifications on, or I'll see to it that your bloodline is not just ended with you, but erased completely from history. Remember, don't go after anyone I talked about in today's video. It's basically a waste of time, and you look like a very specific kind of goofball when you go on the internet and do all that shit. You can